Hey, YouTube world, we are back. Hope you're having a great start to your week. And guess what? We got breaking news coming in on the 2 hours, not quite on the hour, on the 2 hours. Patrick Mahomes is signing a 10-year, $400+ million extension, which will take up contract language that down the road will match whatever the future cap projections are for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, a 12-year total extension for Mahomes lasts through 2031, and the Kansas City Chiefs now have their quarterback all the way until Patrick Mahomes is 36 years old. And this is a thing that has kind of been culminating. No one expected what ended up happening, but I didn't even know this could happen. Did anyone else know you could sign 10-year contracts? At least people like my generation, Gen Z or late millennial, because like Drew Bledsoe got a 10-year contract. You had Michael Vick got a 10-year contract, but I didn't know any of those players. So turns out you can get 10-year contracts in the NFL. It's not like the NBA where it's collectively negotiated now that you can only get like 5-year contracts or something. But anyways, so this actually has the potential to work out for Kansas City because we've seen the progression of quarterbacks now, and obviously it's hard to project what the future is going to look like. Was it something they had to do? Yes. Was this just an inevitability? Yes. Is it breaking news because we're in the midst of a pandemic and everyone is looking for something to talk about? Absolutely. And there's not that much to critique because is it a good deal? Is it not a good deal? Doesn't matter. What we should be focusing on is the contract language, the future of the Kansas City Chiefs, and projecting where this plays out. Because obviously the NFL season is in jeopardy. We know that. How long it takes for the NFL to recover in the event of a postponed season, which seems almost inevitable now, considering the number of dropouts in the NBA, MLS, and MLB, along with European soccer and the stuff that's gone on there, it seems inevitable that things are going to be in trouble for football this year. So how long do they project that these cap issues will persist in the NFL? If it's 2 years to make an economic recovery, the Chiefs will live with that because Mahomes' extension doesn't kick in until that season, and they're pretty clear on their books down the road. Obviously, you haven't signed too many players to long-term extensions by then. Right now, it's like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Tyrann Mathieu, a first-round pick like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that's about it. So where do they progress from that, knowing that there's financial implications coming down the road and knowing that you're going to have to rebuild your roster one way or another once Mahomes comes up on this $40 million a year extension? Much like the Seahawks had to do with Russell Wilson, what the Vikings are having to do with Kirk Cousins right about now, when you dedicate a large percentage of your cap to the quarterback, you have to make decisions on roster construction. At that point, you can only sign about 2 more players that are the best of the best at their position to contracts. It's the reason the Chiefs aren't going to sign Chris Jones to a contract extension. And what you're seeing is that you're going to have to find value within the margins, despite the fact the Chiefs plan to compete every single year that Mahomes is under this contract. So those are things that are all playing into this decision. Was Mahomes going to get the money no matter what? Yes. So you can go the other way on the cause correlation, is that because of coronavirus and the financial implications of the league, that now proposes an issue for the Chiefs, which again is an issue for 2022 and 2023. But assume 2020 season is in jeopardy, or at the very least it's some kind of tainted product. That gives the Chiefs like one more run to repeat as Super Bowl champions and craft out this first era of their dynasty. Because if you think about even the Patriots, the model franchise of professional football, they went 10 seasons without winning a Super Bowl. They played in 2, but they went 10 full seasons without winning the Super Bowl. This is going to be a fascinating dynamic coming up for the Kansas City Chiefs, because this was inevitable. They're going to have to rebuild this contract, this situation, but how long it lasts can be an interesting question, because we saw what happened with the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, and how Russell Wilson can single-handedly get them 9 to 10 wins. It's the reason I say Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, those are about the only players I would give massive contract extensions to. Is only because those guys can guarantee you, when healthy, in the case of Carson Wentz and Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, they're the only guys who can guarantee you 9 to 10 wins every single year they step out on the field. So those are the only guys you would dedicate a significant portion of your cap to. Yes, I did not mention Lamar Jackson. Yes, I did not mention Drew Brees. Those are all fallacies that exist under the same circumstance I was talking about when we talk about Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 guys. I've done this before on previous YouTube videos, podcasts. There's only an elite tier of Tier 1 guys, and they're the 5 names I mentioned. So other than that, if this was going to happen anyways, just the shocking figure is the 10 years versus the 5 years. And these are all now projections the Chiefs have to figure out, but now we can address, because they're not new issues. They began once you start running the numbers of like, hey, if this season doesn't happen, how does this affect this and this down the road? So having Patrick Mahomes becomes increasingly more important, and he needs to be increasingly valuable because of the large percentage of the cap he's going to take up. I feel like the last 6 minutes of the Super Bowl just added $160 million to Patrick Mahomes' contract. I feel like if they don't win that Super Bowl, he's getting a $200 million extension instead of a $400+ million extension. Like, it's crazy to think about the cap numbers that Patrick, just the pure dollar amount that Mahomes is getting. I was making the joke, he's pretty close to being able to buy the Kansas City Chiefs in like a Ballers-esque moment, where he, like Spencer Strasmore, just goes ahead and buys the Kansas City Chiefs. It's an interesting dynamic that's playing out. So we'll see how all that progresses down the road with both Mahomes getting this contract extension and the massive dollar figures, and maybe for the first time ever, a contract that actually includes percentages of the cap being written into the contract. Like, he's going to be guaranteed $58 million guaranteed in 2029, which has to be at a bare minimum 38% of your cap space, whatever the numbers may be. It's an interesting proposition, and I think that much like when Kirk Cousins got the first fully guaranteed contract, he wanted to be a trendsetter. When Russell Wilson got his contract extension, he wanted to be a trendsetter for front-loading guaranteed money and adding incentives down the road. He wanted to be a trendsetter on that. I think Mahomes is now setting the trend of not just guaranteed all throughout, but setting a percentage of your cap as a long-term extension. It's why when we talk about baseball contracts, you have like 5-year deals, but they're paying for 10 years when you see Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, Christian Yelich, the bad ones, Albert Pujols, Chris Davis, Miguel Cabrera. You're paying for 5 years of service, but you have to sign them for 10 years. This percentage of the cap idea is actually something that might turn in their favor in both the team and Mahomes, if that's somehow possible. Again, this is years down the road, so as we see this experiment play out, we'll have more information. I've known about this concept for 30 minutes, and we've got 8 years to evaluate whether or not percentage of a cap is beneficial for the player or beneficial for the owners, or both, or neither. We'll see how it plays out with Patrick Mahomes, and probably setting a minimum bar on that. So Thank goodness for breaking news and Patrick Mahomes shaking up the world today.